Hello and welcome to Council Watch, and today I want to talk about conflicts. Now, not conflicts as in typical council argy-bargy, but conflicts of interest, and these things come up fairly often. And one of the recent council meetings sort of made a bit of a feature of it. Now, I suppose what we really need to do is actually work out what exactly a conflict of interest is. Conflicts of interest fall into a number of categories, but the most important one, I think, is the one at the bottom of this list. It's the one about where a person's personal interests or loyalties would prevent them making the right decision for the group in which they're a member. So it's all about making the best decision for the group which you're representing. So in this particular case, if you are on a committee of Lowestoft Town Council, you're expected to make the best decision and support the actual aims and objectives of Lowestoft Town Council. Now that gets really difficult if you are what they call wearing two hats. Graham, one of the councillors, is also a councillor for East Suffolk Council. Now, historically, East Suffolk and Lowestoft Town Council appear to be at odds on some particular subjects, and on others they're in broad agreement. So it gets a bit tricky. Now, we've got quite a few members of the council who wear two hats. It might well be the Marina project, so the Marina Theatre. It's very difficult if you're actually an employee of the Marina Theatre to actually sit on the council making decisions about the Marina Theatre and trying to be impartial. And even if you are impartial, it might be viewed from outside that you're not. And that's the snag. Now, historically, Lowestoft Town Council have had this policy where they ask members to go out of the room, which they do. Now, of course, that doesn't mean to say it's like a secret. They're out of the room just so they can't influence the meeting. And to be honest, I doubt that any of the councillors would dream of doing that. But this is supposed to be democracy. So you can have the impression of being against something when perhaps you're not. So the system where people get up and go out of the room is a good one. Now, of course, when they go home, they're perfectly able to look at the live stream of the meeting and see what they missed. That's not the point. The point is that if they were in the room, they could influence other members. And we know that some members frequently say nothing at all. Others have slightly shaky opinions and are sort of prone to change them at a moment's notice. And other people have got absolutely solid opinions and won't change them no matter what. And that's okay. In this meeting, Wendy brought up the problem of Graham, our East Suffolk councillor, being involved in discussions in things that East Suffolk Council were actually pretty well the prime mover. First light, in actual fact, sort of reared its head. Well, having a councillor who's privy to information from another body can come in pretty handy. So it's possible that Lowestoft Town Council will get early notice of directions of change, or maybe if something has already been agreed by East Suffolk Council, Graham is aware of it, and where it doesn't create a problem the other end, can feed that information into Lowestoft Town Council. So there are circumstances where knowing things in advance can help. But equally, of course, it's very difficult for a councillor to be positive in one council meeting for one body to then be negative about the same thing in a meeting for another body. You know, people can't change their opinions and beliefs that quickly. So there is always that slight concern that any conversations or debates could be influenced by things that the council members maybe are not aware of. So when is a councillor saying something that is their own sincere belief, and when are they actually saying something that's perhaps a political thing that the other august body have decided is the way that things go? It's very difficult. Now, in this particular meeting, Wendy brought up the issue. And, you know, Wendy and I probably don't see the same perspective on most subjects, but I appreciate that what she says is actually what she believes in, and that's absolutely fine. So her comment about should a councillor be in the meeting or outside makes sense. And in this particular one, she was actually trying to make the point and was promised that it would be looked at, and it didn't.
I know in the beginning I said it wasn't a good idea, but I'm starting to think otherwise now.
Yeah, but we don't have to make a decision now, but we could explore it. Graham.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I don't think it is a conflict of interest because there's two separate events here. We're talking about the Green Weekend, which is Lowestoft Town Council.
Yeah, and that's the one we're talking about.
Which is actually East Suffolk Council. We're not really discussing First Light.
No.
We're actually discussing the green event.
Exactly, and where we put it. So, Wendy, to appease you.
No, not to appease me, because it's actually, we can make a recommendation, but it's an event. It's under events and comms.
Yeah, I realise that.
I feel very strongly that Graham should not have a vote on this because he is an East Suffolk councillor. It is their event, First Light, very much so. I think we're doing ourselves a disservice by, we did try, if you remember, to have a stall at the First Light Festival last year and failed because they said there wasn't any space for us. So
well,
I don't see why people are, I don't understand where the thinking is coming from. I really don't understand, Paul, why you think we should subsume ourselves into First Light. I don't get it.
We'd have more people engaged. That's
So what's happening here is they're talking about the event that Lowestoft Town Council arranged, which was in Sparrow's Nest, that didn't really get much exposure. And the idea is to put this year's event, the same thing, into Kensington Gardens during First Light, which is organised, of course, by East Suffolk Council. And so that's what Wendy's talking about. She's not very keen on the idea of sort of going in with, you know, a stall in Kensington Gardens during First Light.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, will you?
That's my hope.
Well, will you? Or are you just saying, oh, well, there's loads of people there, so we will engage with them? Not necessarily. Just because there are a lot of people there, it doesn't mean that they're going to engage with you. Because the focus of the Big Green Weekend in Sparrow's Nest is very much about green issues, then people are there for that reason.
What I was going to suggest, my proposal would be that we would take it. We need to have some discussions with the First Light people anyway to see whether it's even possible.
Wendy might have something here. An event that is aimed at people who have a green state of mind is one thing. If people have gone to First Light and they're interested in the music and the other events, are they really going to spend any time at a little stall that is nothing to do with the music and is all to do with green? It's a good point.
And then talk about it further along the line with having different locations, not just the Sparrow's Nest. Anyway, Debbie.
Yeah, as Wendy said, people go to Sparrow's Nest specifically for the Green Weekend, and they are people who are probably already very green. What we really want to do is bring in people who aren't and try to convince them that they need to become aware, or convince them that this is an issue and they need to be aware of it. So it just gives us an opportunity to engage with far more people, I feel.
Yeah. Okay, Graham?
Yeah, totally agree, Deborah. And I honestly think we should give it a try and do something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I'm going to make a proposal that Graham does not participate anymore in this debate or vote on it.
I don't
Because I think it's a conflict.
I don't think there's any conflict of interest. We're just talking about relocating the Big Green.
Take a vote on it.
So Wendy's made a proposal. She thinks that Graham shouldn't be involved in this.
Yeah, well, we will take a vote on it. And the proposal is we'll consider relocating it and working alongside the First Light in Kensington Gardens and other locations around the town. That's the next step, I think. Have anyone like to second that proposal? Debbie, thank you. We'll have a vote on that one then, please. And that's everybody abstaining, Wendy?
No, I'm against.
And Wendy's against. Thank you. So that's carried forward to have a look at again. Sorry, Graham.
they're looking at putting a barrier across at the wash.
The tidal barrier across the wash suddenly appeared, and no idea where that came from. I mean, I think it was being talked about in 22, something about the £2 billion wash barrier, a 12-mile barrier across the entrance to the wash. I noticed in 2023 it was up to 3 billion, so it's on the way up, isn't it? I think we're a long way away from any constructive discussion on this one, because certainly it doesn't appear to be going very fast, and as far as I can see, there's no substantial reports been compiled already, so maybe we're a bit in advance on this one. I don't know.
Really?
It may actually have consequences further down the coast, so I'd just like to discuss that. There's discussion going on about a barrier, as I say,
Yeah.
from one side of the wash to the other, and obviously it may actually cause flooding this area, especially in the Broads,
Okay.
as a result, because water will move down the coast as a result of having the barrier across
Can
the
we
wash.
certainly like to talk
Yeah.
about that? Can we put that on the agenda, please, Taylor? Exactly as Graham said it, about the barrier in the
Tidal
wash.
barrier.
Tidal barrier in the wash and the effects for this coastline. Thank you. John?
Has the committee discussed the direct air capture for CO2 removal machine being built in the?
No.
I think we ought to discuss that
I think we could.
particular idea.
Another idea out of left field. If you've never come across direct air capture, basically it's all about CO2. So you suck the CO2 out of the air, and then you either store it or change it into something else that's a bit less harmful. So it's a good idea. It's great. So typically, if you live in the right part of the country, you could actually find underground storage for CO2. So you suck it out of the air, stuff it underground, return what's left into the environment. So that's good. The other idea is that you take the CO2 and turn it into something slightly less harmful, using solvents and things like that. And that's the alternative. The tremendous cost of doing this at the moment means it's completely impractical to do. Nobody can afford to take this system on board yet. Maybe in the future, but I'm a bit surprised that our little parish council are discussing methods to get rid of CO2 that is way, way, way in the future.
Yes.
Yeah. Did
Yes.
you get that one, Taylor?
Yes. Direct air capture for CO2.
Nice idea. Debbie?
And then this suddenly popped up. This worries me a bit.
Yeah, can we ask a question of the Excelsior Trust as to why they sent their recent trip, why they took their recent trip to the Faroe Islands, when the Faroe Islands carry out horrific annual cull of hundreds of pilot whales, dolphins and porpoises.
100%.
I can't believe many people actually supporting the Grindadrop in the UK. We don't like whaling in any shape or form, do we? And I don't think I've come across anybody who thinks it's great. But it is historic and it is cultural to them. And to be perfectly honest, Excelsior are going to that island on the way to somewhere else for very different reasons. I mean, the Faroe Islands are amazingly well populated, so fauna, flora, all that sort of stuff. I mean, there are things to go and see there, and while we might find that thing distasteful, I certainly don't think we, as in Lowestoft residents with a town council, should be criticising another country's way of doing things. And certainly, what's it got to do with the Excelsior Trust? I mean, they're taking kids to somewhere that's beautiful, nice, remote, all of those positive things. Yeah, sure, there's one particularly unsavoury thing, but we're not going there during that season, are we? So I really think this is way outside the remit of the Ecological Committee. We don't have to agree with what they're doing, but equally, we don't go there while they're doing it. We could say the same about Japan. We go to Japan, don't we? But we know they do whaling. Loads of things we don't have to agree with, but I think it's a bit rich to be actually asking the Excelsior Trust to justify why they go into a certain part of the world. It's nothing to do with us, and it's certainly nothing to do with Lowestoft Town Council, in my humble view.
So I think it's 117,000 plastic bins they're going to buy us so that we can separate our plastic from our cardboard and paper.
Right, now something that's far more important to most of us. Bins. There are plans afoot to purchase a load of extra bins of a different colour. So we'll have our black one, we'll have our blue one, but we'll have another one as well. So we can stick cardboard in one and we can stick plastic stuff in another. That's the cunning plan. I mean, perhaps we should have a pink bin. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But that's what's being talked about. And one of the things that Wendy's discovered is that that would also probably mean 3 weeks between your black bin being collected. Now, I don't know about you, but my black bin is pretty disgusting after 2 weeks. Because if there is stuff in there that's going off, my fridge freezer died a death. So the contents of my fridge freezer were in my black bin, and it was disgusting. But I didn't know what else to do with it, so it was in the bin. Now, how this is going to work is what they're talking about. But it really means bin gate.
Now, it was raised by some of the district councillors, I think because I raised it with them and wrote in the journal, that a number of people, well, there's two issues. One is that a lot of the blue bins end up contaminated anyway, because people put the wrong stuff in it.
They do.
Giving people another bin in an area that's quite densely populated and people have very small spaces, or they live in a flat and the flats are only given permission because of the number of bins that they're allowed in there. Suddenly they get to increase that number. There has been no thought about the littering of bins on our streets, because the other proposal, the other thing they're serious, I don't know if they've agreed it yet, is that not only will we get another bin, so some people have 4 bins, they will be, the black bin will be collected every 3 weeks. The 2 recycling bins and the green bin will be collected weekly. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I share a bin with my neighbour, and it seems to have fallen to me to take the bins out. So I do a blue bin one with a black and green. The idea that I've now got to do it on a week, those bins on a weekly basis, I just think, oh, for God, where are they going to go? So all this was raised, and there was a few sort of like platitudes, because I said, they haven't actually consulted with the parish councils. It's an idea that they've come up with because government funding is available to give us an extra bin.
Yep. Bins, something that I think we can relate to much better than some of the other subjects that committee talked about. So let's hope that the bin thing works. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to put 4 bins. What about those people who live in the little terraced houses? They've got no space for the ones they've got at the moment. They'll end up on the streets yet again. This is more of a sort of important thing that needs to be talked about. And what I humbly suggest is what this committee is all about. So let's hope they all get on the case and get the bins sorted out. That's far more important, isn't it, than worrying about what Excelsior Trust are doing with the people on their boat. Anyway, I'll see you on the next video. Look after yourselves. Take care.